Tag TV and Tag Radio. Be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. If you run or own a small business that employs more than 500 employees, according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, you're just that, a small business. Well, think about it. That number of employees makes up more than 99% of all American companies. So, Mr. or Mrs. Small Business Owner, creating 67% of all jobs? How do you deal with today's advanced technologies or IT staffing? Better leverage your investments to satisfy strategic and tactical requirements. How do you handle performance improvements, IT operations, solve business problems, reduce cost, and enhance your competitive advantage? Yikes, and it's only Monday. Well, not really. It's actually Friday. Greetings, everyone. It's Friday, January 11, 2013, and this is a premier showcase edition of Tech Talk with the Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. Up to the Tech Talk in today's transforming economy, impacted by more government, more technology evolution, and more aggressive competition, how does a small business owner or top executive make crucial decisions on best-of-breed infrastructure solutions, IT management consulting, data center solutions, disaster recovery, managed services, and enterprise solutions? Where do you find the right solutions? In fact, how do you even know what the right solutions are? Getting ready for some real straight tech talk. It's how you can better leverage your existing tech access, reduce operational costs, and better manage your enterprise in the, new normal. It's a rare one-on-one opportunity to speak with an industry expert with more than a quarter century of experience in the IT industry, Steve Johnson, president of Corus360, a firm he heads with an intense focus and an industry-wide reputation of consistent success and long-time client relationships, helping business top decision makers solve business problems, mitigate risk, and reduce capital expenses with the expansion of recovery, cloud, advanced technology, and staffing solutions. Former executive with Harris Corporation, Senior Vice President for Universal Data Consultants, a title he held when that company was acquired by GE Capital Network Services, Steve founded Bay Data Consulting, which was then acquired in 2000 by ITC Deltacom, where he was appointed Senior VP of its 350,000 square foot data center and e-business service provider. In 2003, he acquired his partnerships back and founded what would ultimately become today's Corus360. We go to the expert for the tough questions and the straight tech talk answers you need in the new year and beyond as we speak with the president of Corus360, Steve Johnson. Steve, welcome to Tech Talk.
Oh, hey, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me today.
Well, with the complications, the competitiveness, the global aspects of any business today, I think every CEO, every CIO is challenged with solving business problems and trying to mitigate risk and obviously reduce capital expenses. One of the issues that have come up over the last couple of years, certainly the whole idea of recovery and cloud and advanced technology and even staffing solutions. Let's talk a little bit today about those subjects. I think our listening audience would really, gain a lot of insight and knowledge from your background and expertise. Let's talk about how does things like, say, advanced technology and staffing solutions, beyond the obvious, how do they impact a success or a failure as far as today's business is concerned?
No, that's a great question and a good place to start. You know, the last 3 years have kind of seen a stagnant watermark in corporate America for technology investment, for staffing levels based on projects that are going to go out through the enterprise and increase productivity, increase efficiencies, and potentially drive cost out, whether it's driving cost out of a technology stack or a human resource stack. So a lot of companies today are starting on the converged infrastructure. How do I take a depreciated asset and merge it into a converged infrastructure where I can deploy my applications faster and I can get them out to market faster than my competition? And you're starting to see a lot of that type of investment in corporate America. It could be a single application stack, such as virtual desktop. With the proliferation of mobile devices, people are looking for a way to drive the adoption of the bring your own device, but do it on the enterprise infrastructure versus any way an end user might like it. With that same thing, topic kind of moving forward, when you look at projects within corporate America, we know, unfortunately, the last 3 years has seen a reduction in the workforce, especially in IT. But it doesn't mean today that corporate America does not have a stack of projects that's moving across the enterprise, whether it's a ERP upgrade, CRM upgrade, whether it's a healthcare initiative and a new system that's coming to bear. And a lot of organizations do not want to go staff permanent employees for that type of initiative. So they're coming to organizations such as Corus360 and others in that space that have application-specific, project management-specific staffing capabilities. So I'm seeing a big upturn in our staffing business and those of my friends and brethren that share the same space as I do in and around the Southeast.
Well, one of the things that I think from an old school standpoint, we used to have the challenge of any time we dealt with technological evolution, technological turnover, was the idea of the cultural conflict, the internal conflict of, I always done it this way, I'm not going to change and do it the way you're telling me, and you're getting the resistance of adoption. I guess what I'm asking would be the opposite, and that is, what about the investment in internal, say, institutional knowledge when you're dealing with staffing solutions, when you're buying that on, a temporary basis, by the drink, if you will? What happens in the long run? Am I really using my money effectively? Because am I just buying it for that moment, and do I really retain any of that knowledge for the future?
No, that's a great question. In the business that I'm currently in, we spend a lot of time on the organization's culture. What type of environment are we going to place somebody into? What do we know about the environment? Who's running the project? And what type of people are currently on the project? So you try to get like-minded people coming into the organization that are vested in the same cultural capabilities. With that said, you then bring in for a specific job. When the job is over, the customer has the option of retaining that employee and taking them to permanent, or sending them back through documentation, through different types of methodologies. You can retain a lot of what that individual has done on that specific job, depending upon what your internal PMO process looks like. So the retention of the intellectual capital, that's going to leave if you don't retain them. But how you capture what that individual's done, that's an internal process. And we try to help our customers understand that if we bring in a developer that's 90, 120-day working on a project, how are you going to ensure that code is, you understand it, how to use it? What happens if the 4 people he's working with leave?
Exactly.
So,
and that's again, it's one of those kind of things when from this side of the selling or the buying proposition, I'm always thinking to myself, what are the problems that I should identify that would make me think I need your help to begin with? Because when you're talking to a subject matter expert, you're talking to an IT consultant with the kind of background and experience that you have. I almost, that cliche about you've forgotten more than I know. So there's a tendency to kind of maybe talk much more complex or much more detail than I even understand that tells me, well, that's what I'm looking for. So one of the things I'm often curious about when we have an opportunity to talk to someone with your background, would be the first thing to say, well, based on the capabilities that you're talking about providing, how would I know I need that help?
Again, another great question. Any consultant organization that is providing professional services, staff augmentation, product sets must always listen to the customer, what their current capabilities are, what their current team's skill sets are, and try to round out those skill sets with complementary individuals that kind of bridge the gap for where the customer currently is and where they need to go based on the new project. So like for like, anybody can do it. More commoditized, more vendor management solutions, very kind of point-click ship, here comes a Java developer, point-click ship, here comes an HTML developer. But what if you really need to combine the two? What if you need to have somebody with specific skill sets? Mm-hmm. Well, you better understand what those skill sets are and make sure that they're absolutely bridging the gap from what the customer expects, or you're not going to have a very happy customer in my mind.
Now, a couple of times now your responses have been delving into almost a very minute look at the individual culture, understanding the, if you will, personality of the customer, the client, in order to provide the kind of, granular kind of details that give you that almost very emotional, very tied knowledge of the company. Now my reaction goes back again to the other side, and I'm thinking I'm on the other side of the desk. Steve's talking to me. I'm thinking Harry's Farmer's Market. If you've ever been to Harry's, when I first walk in the door, it's like, my God, there's so much. How do I know you're the one for me versus you looking into, from a very intimate standpoint, my business? How do I understand and evaluate you beyond the selling propositions that you might present?
So anybody that plays on my side of the fence must have a reference base, must have core competencies. And if you're going to survive in this business for as long as I've survived in this business here in the Southeast, you better understand how to say no, what your cores are and what they're not. And hopefully if you've taken the audience, or a CIO or a project lead has given you the time, and you come to the conclusion that, you know what, this is not a good fit for me, but, my friend over here at XYZ consulting firm, or over here at this firm, would be a better fit. So, I tell my team that's out there customer facing all the time, it's okay to say no. Understand what the customer is looking for. Make sure that this isn't the first time we're doing this, that we've got a referenceable customer that can talk to our capabilities in this space. We can talk about being on budget. We can talk about being on time. We can talk about managing our expenses. We can talk about our change order process. We can talk about what happens when a consultant comes in and he might not be a cultural good fit, what we do to replace that person in a timely manner. So I think, again, it goes back to a core value system that embraces what I'm doing here at Corus and what other, very established consulting firms are doing. You've got to do it right. You got to know what you do well and what you don't. And by all means, you've got to let the customer know, hey, I don't do that very well.
I think, the trust. I mean, it's so obvious that it's a key factor, but trying to establish that in an initial contact or in a few meetings or so, and, you're talking about my baby. This is my business. If I'm a first-generation entrepreneur, it's probably even more challenging to get that trust because I'm probably not even used to delegating those things. I want total control. But if I've got corporate responsibility, we're talking about job security. I make the wrong choice, and I'm in trouble. So that whole issue for me at that first step when we're dealing – again, on this side, at the first contact, not your more sophisticated player, but that one that's first beginning to reach out and trying to figure out how to compete, I want to know I've got somebody on the other side of that desk is going to say no to me. I can't do that, and I know something better. I mean, that's pretty powerful stuff as far as I'm concerned. Let's talk about some specifics as it relates to, I think, some of the more current issues. One, obviously, is big data. I mean, now we're talking about analytics anymore and the gathering of information that's happening so exponentially that we don't even know what to do with it, no less be able to manage it. How are companies managing the growth of their data?
I just read a great article on Polaroid and how Polaroid's reinventing themselves with a photo box retail outlet, and it's all based on 1.5 billion photos a day are being taken by individuals, and individuals can't manage their own photos. Well, let's take that back to all of the data that's generated each and every day in corporate America. And it's video data, it's pictures, it's this forecast, that forecast, this tune, that tune of a different way to look at things. And corporate America is just inundated with growth of data. Not only the growth of data, but backing up the data, recovering the data.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, that the next thing, number one, is managing it and being able to access it to bring value to it. I'm guessing that's part of the proposition. And then after you've taken all that time and energy and expense to do that, how do you protect it? How do you worry, as far as like you're talking redundancy with, say, disaster recovery or even business continuity planning?
Well, regulatory issues across the financial, healthcare, government, defense sector will govern how you protect your data, where you keep it, who has access to it. So that's usually, for me, it's a customer initiative. Here's what I must do. How can you help me do that? So every industry has different rules and regulatory requirements around the retention of that data. But if you go back to the growth of data and this big new buzzword called, big data analytics, I mean, that is what the business is today in corporate America. Home Depot just bought a company, small little entrepreneurial company in Austin, Texas, that does all data analytics. Very specialized, very focused. And my conversation earlier about knowing when to say no, I'm real good at extracting from a SQL database and presenting it on a screen in a pie chart or this, that, but I'm just doing simple little extraction of data, not pulling together all these different data pools and building a script that says, here's how many white shirts went off this retail store and that retail store, size 15 neck and 34 sleeves in the last 2 hours. I mean, that's data analytics. That's real deep dive kind of information. And right now, very few people have those skill sets. We're all trying to build them. We're all trying to find those individuals, and that's why you see the Fortune 50 companies really deep diving into Hadoop, either Cloudera or Apache's version, because they're using what's left of the big 5 consulting firms that have built out their practices. It'll filter down into the size companies like mine, and it is one of the top initiatives I have for 2013 and 14, and it is to build a data analytics practice. Whether it's taking the young talented kids out of Georgia Tech and some of the other schools that are starting to focus in that area, but right now that talent pool is very hard to find, and that's an area that when customers ask me, I say, boy, if you can find somebody, let me know who they are, because I've got a lot of customers asking.
Sure. Well, one of the things I think we run into with we talk about these cliches, like Atlanta's traffic situation is a cliche we all know about. But the other one is that the only thing that endures is change. I think one of the Greek philosophers said a couple of thousand years ago, but it's so much more true today. And I guess my point that I'm going is that it's okay. These extremes that are happening with data analytics and the kind of information that you're talking about coming from the Fortune 50 is at the edge. And yet behind that are the evolution of the individual potential clients that are still just kind of looking at basics, trying to figure out where do I go from here. And I think probably one of the messages I would think it would be important to say, and I'm asking if this is the case, is get started. Don't be intimidated by going to the max and assume you've got to deal with the kind of detailed data information and responses that you're talking about with that top 50. But the fact of the matter is what you really need to do is to make sure that you take a look at the business you're in today, the size of that business, the dynamics of that business, as you mentioned, the legal and governmental ramifications of your business, and get a partner, get somebody that is a specialist in that area that can help you kind of muddle through all of the situation that you've got to address. I just can't imagine, I date myself by using that term of in the day, but, I'm an entrepreneur and have been for a long period of time, first-generation business owner, and I think to myself the challenges of a complex mid-sized operation today, it's impossible for anybody on staff to know all those answers. And so I guess really my point being is, where does a client start? Where does a potential client start? What would you recommend to the people who are listening to us today that have gotten some idea about the kind of things that are happening as far as the sector is concerned, know their business and say, wait a minute, I can see how the dots connect. I want to do something about it?
No, that is an outstanding question. I'm fortunate enough that I've got a title of, executive, CEO, president, founder. So I have the opportunity to meet with a lot of my peers within the organization, whether it's a VP of sales or a CEO or a CIO. And when we start talking about all the different data pools that they have where they're capturing information, I ask a very simple question, of that information, what's delivered to you via spreadsheet, what's delivered to you via physical piece of paper, and wouldn't it be nice if that was delivered to you in a dashboard, or you could access the data with a quick click on a script? That's the type of information that executives are looking for. Not waiting every single morning for yesterday's sales results, walking in and that's already pooling from 4 or 5 different systems. So that's the first start. And I would say that 60% of corporate America already has some form or fashion of business intelligence built in, but is it real time? Is it effective? Are they using it to make quick decisions? Can they use it for a competitive advantage? Can they use it to spin their business on a dime and turn in a different direction? That's when this stuff really starts getting exciting.
And when you think about return on investment, it could actually be the life expectancy of your company. I mean, I can't imagine how you could resist doing it, except for the frustration and the knowledge of just where to begin. And I think today's conversation, has been helpful to anyone that's listened to know that there's a lot going on out there. There's a few players that are important to make contact. One of is with you. I can only say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for a few minutes today on Tech Talk.
Thank you so much to the Georgia Technology Authority for allowing me to talk to my peer group out there. And if Corus360 or some of the other consulting firms in town can help our community be more effective, more efficient, drive more jobs to the Georgia marketplace, then we've all been successful. So thank you very much for your time, and you have a great day, and Happy New Year to you.